Let me tell you something that might sound strange at first, maybe even a little unsettling. What if the person you think you are, the me you've carried around your whole life, isn't as solid as you believe? What if that self, the one you're constantly trying to protect, prove, or fix, is more like a story you've been telling yourself all along? And what if letting that story soften could bring you the peace you've been chasing for years? Stay with me for a moment. This isn't about religion or philosophy. It's about finding a quiet kind of freedom inside yourself, the kind that doesn't depend on anything or anyone. And hey, if you're new here and you love exploring thoughts that make you feel lighter, maybe hit that subscribe button. I'd love for you to walk this journey with me. You see, long ago the Buddha said, all things are without a self. When one sees this with wisdom, one turns away from suffering. But don't worry. You don't need to be Buddhist or spiritual to understand what that means. It's really about something simple. We suffer because we hold on too tightly to the idea of who we think we are. We spend so much of our lives trying to keep that image alive. We say, this is my body, my name, my job, my life. And yet, when something changes, when we lose a job, when someone leaves, when our face in the mirror begins to age, it hurts because we believe that something in us has been taken away. But maybe, just maybe, what's really hurting is our attachment to the idea of me. I remember a friend who lost his business after working on it for nearly 20 years. For months, he couldn't get out of bed. He said, it's like I disappeared. And I get it. When everything you do, everything you build, becomes tied to who you are, losing it feels like dying. But one evening, he told me something beautiful. He said, I sat outside watching the sunset, and I realized the world kept going. The wind still moved. The birds still sang. Maybe I didn't disappear. Maybe I was never just at business. That's when I understood what the Buddha meant. That when we stop clinging to the idea of who we are, life doesn't end, it expands. Maybe you felt it too, that ache when someone criticizes you, that fear when you fail, that emptiness when things don't go as planned. Those moments hit so hard because deep down, we're trying to hold on to something that can't stay the same. Everything is changing. Our bodies, our moods, our relationships, even the thoughts passing through our minds. Nothing stands still, and yet we keep trying to make it permanent. We say, this is who I am. But the truth is, we're not the same person we were yesterday. And that's okay. That's what life is. A beautiful, never-ending dance of change. You don't have to understand all of this right away. You don't have to let go completely. Just start noticing. Notice how you say my pain, my story, my problem, and see how that feels in your chest. Notice how things come and go, yet something deeper in you stays quiet, untouched. That quiet space, that's where peace begins to grow. When I first heard about this idea of non-self, I thought it meant I had to stop caring about life. I thought, if there's no me, then what's the point? But I was wrong. It doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you care differently. You care with gentleness instead of fear. You love without needing to own. You act without needing to prove. You start seeing yourself not as a solid thing, but as a part of something much bigger, like a wave that belongs to the ocean. The wave rises and falls, but the ocean remains. And when you really feel that, even just for a second, something inside you softens. You stop fighting so hard to be someone. You stop needing to win every argument, to be right all the time, to have life look a certain way. You start breathing again. And suddenly, peace doesn't feel like something you have to chase. It's already there, underneath all the noise. Maybe this idea feels strange right now. Maybe it even scares you a little. That's okay. Let it. Growth always starts with a little discomfort. Just know this. You don't need to become anyone new. You just need to see that the you you've been protecting was never meant to be fixed. Life moves, you move with it. So tonight, maybe when things quiet down, take a deep breath. Let your shoulders drop. Let your thoughts pass by like clouds. For a moment, forget the story of who you are, the titles, the worries, the expectations. Just sit there and feel the simple miracle of being alive. That's where freedom begins. And if these words make you feel something, a little lighter, a little calmer, stay with me. There's more to explore together. You can subscribe and join this space where we keep learning to let go, to breathe, and to find peace in simply being. Maybe, just maybe, that's all we were ever meant to do. Sometimes, when people first hear about the idea of no self, they think it means we're nothing, that life is meaningless, or that we're just empty. But that's not what it means at all. It's not about erasing who you are. It's about seeing through the illusion that your identity is something fixed, like a rock that never changes. You're not a rock. You're more like a river. You're always moving, always flowing. The thoughts you have today aren't the same ones you had 10 years ago. The person you were in your 20s isn't the same person sitting here now. And yet, through all of it, there's this quiet awareness that's been watching the whole time, gentle, steady, like a sky that never disappears, no matter how many clouds pass through. When we start to see life this way, something shifts. We stop being so afraid of change. We stop clinging so tightly to our plans, our image, our control, because deep down we start to understand it's all temporary anyway. The pain you feel, the joy you feel, the successes, the losses, they come, they go, and they come again. Nothing stays. And that's not something to be sad about. It's what makes life precious. You start to appreciate each moment, not because it lasts forever, but because it doesn't. I once met an old man who told me, the older I get, the less I try to hold on. He smiled when he said it, not out of defeat, but peace. He said, when I was young, I thought I had to keep everything together, my career, my reputation, my family's image. I thought if I could just control it all, I'd be safe. But life had other plans. People left, things changed, my body got weaker. And then one day, I stopped fighting it. And that's when I finally started living. His words stayed with me. They reminded me that maybe life isn't about holding on, but about learning how to let go with grace. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It doesn't mean you stop caring. It just means you stop carrying what was never yours to begin with. You let things flow through you instead of trying to trap them inside. The pain that once felt unbearable starts to soften. The fear that once controlled you begins to fade. You realize that it's okay to feel lost sometimes. It's okay to not have all the answers. You start to trust life a little more. Trust that even when things fall apart, something new is quietly taking shape beneath it all. And maybe that's what freedom really is. Not having everything figured out, not being perfect, not holding on to an identity so tightly that you forget to breathe, but simply allowing life to move through you, moment by moment. You stop needing to be somebody special, and you start being simply here. And honestly, that's enough. You are enough, even without the labels, even without the story. So maybe tonight, as you sit in the quiet, you can whisper to yourself, I don't have to hold on so hard, because you don't. You can rest. You can trust that who you are is not something you need to protect. It's something that's always unfolding, always becoming. And maybe, if you look closely, you'll see that life has been carrying you all along. If these thoughts bring a little peace to your heart, maybe stay with me here. This space is for you, for all of us learning to let go a little more each day. You can subscribe if you like, not for numbers or fame, but just to keep walking together, step by step, breath by breath, as we remember how to simply be. There's something gentle that begins to happen when you really start to understand this idea, when you stop fighting life so much and start flowing with it. You begin to notice how much energy you use to spend protecting this image of yourself, how every argument, every disappointment, every fear was somehow tied to this fragile sense of me. You worried about being right, about being liked, about being enough. You tried to prove yourself to others, to the world, maybe even to your own reflection. And it's exhausting, isn't it? Always defending, always comparing, always chasing some version of yourself that never quite feels finished. But when you loosen that grip just a little, you feel something unexpected. Relief, like exhaling after holding your breath for years. You realize you don't have to be perfect anymore. You don't have to impress anyone. You don't even have to fix everything that's ever gone wrong. You can just be here, quietly, imperfectly, fully. You can make mistakes and still be worthy of love. You can lose something and still be whole. You can change your mind, your path, your heart, and that doesn't make you lost. It makes you alive. I remember talking to a woman once who said, I spent 50 years trying to be someone everyone would approve of. Then one day I got tired. I just wanted peace. She laughed softly and said, It's funny. The moment I stopped pretending, I started to feel free. Her words were simple, but they cut straight through me. Maybe that's what most of us are craving. Not success, not perfection, but peace. And peace doesn't come from controlling life. It comes from letting go of the idea that you ever could. When you look closely, you see how everything in nature already knows how to let go. The trees don't cling to their leaves when autumn comes. The ocean doesn't try to hold its waves. Even the clouds don't fight the wind. They just drift and change shape. Maybe we can learn something from them. That peace isn't found in holding on tighter, but in trusting the rhythm of things. And you know what? You're not late. You're not behind. You're not broken for needing time to learn this. Life has its own timing for everyone. Some lessons come gently. Others crash into us like storms. But all of them shape us. Every joy, every heartbreak, every ending. They're all guiding you home to something quieter, softer, truer. So if you're tired, it's okay. Sit down. Breathe. You've carried enough for one lifetime. You don't have to keep proving that you deserve to exist. You already do. Maybe life isn't asking you to be more. Maybe it's asking you to be less heavy, to let go of what was never really you. If these words find a home in you, I hope you stay. Subscribe if you want, not because you should, but because you feel it. This pull toward peace, this longing to understand life in a gentler way. Together, we can keep exploring what it means to live without the weight of I, and maybe discover that the real freedom we've been searching for is never far away. It was always right here, in the quiet space beneath it all. You know, the more I think about it, the more I realize that so much of our pain comes from forgetting how temporary everything really is. We get caught up in the stories, the roles we play, the dreams we chase, the mistakes we wish we could undo. We build walls around who we think we are, hoping they'll keep us safe. But those walls also keep us from truly living. Because life doesn't fit inside walls. It moves. It breathes. It surprises you when you least expect it. And sometimes, the moment you stop trying to control it, it opens up in the most beautiful way. I remember once sitting by the ocean early in the morning. The world was quiet, the water calm. I watched a wave roll in, touch the sand, and fade away. And for some reason, that simple moment felt like truth. The wave didn't fight to stay. It came, it played its part, and it went back into the sea. Maybe that's what we are too, just waves of experience rising and falling in the great ocean of life. We try so hard to hold our shape, to stay the same, but maybe that's not what we're meant to do. Maybe we're meant to come and go, to love, to learn, to let go, to return. And when you see life like that, everything softens. You stop blaming yourself for the past. You stop fearing what's coming. You begin to live in that gentle space between, where every breath feels precious, every moment feels enough. You realize that happiness isn't something waiting for you at the end of all your plans. It's something that's quietly here, hidden under the noise of wanting and worrying. It's funny. So many of us spend our whole lives trying to find ourselves. We travel. We chase success. We look for meaning in other people's eyes. But what if the point was never to find yourself? What if it was to lose yourself? To lose the version that's built from fear and expectation, and uncover the simple, unguarded presence that's been here all along? Maybe that's why the Buddha spoke of no self, not to take something away from us, but to free us from the endless effort of being someone. Because once you stop clinging to the idea of who you should be, you start to notice the peace of simply being. No mask, no defense, no pressure to perform. Just breath, warmth, awareness, alive in this moment. And maybe that's enough. Maybe you don't need a grand purpose or a perfect plan. Maybe it's okay to not know. To just sit quietly with yourself and say, this is me, changing, imperfect, alive. There's something so tender about that, isn't there? A kind of honesty that doesn't need words, just presence. So if you're listening right now, maybe take a second to look around. Feel your breath. Notice the light, the air, the little sounds that make up this moment. This right here is your life. You don't need to become anyone else to deserve it. You're already part of the vastness, already part of the rhythm. If these words bring you calm, stay with me. This space isn't about big answers. It's about quiet truths. Subscribe if you like, not for numbers, but because maybe deep down you feel it too, that gentle reminder that you were never separate from peace. You were just learning how to see it again. There comes a time, usually after we've run ourselves ragged trying to be everything for everyone, when we just get quiet. Not because we figured everything out, but because something inside us finally whispers, you don't have to keep fighting so hard anymore. And that whisper, that soft surrender, it changes everything. Because in that stillness, we start to see that the self we've been guarding, shaping, defending, was never something solid to begin with. It was made of moments, the laughter, the heartbreak, the stories we told ourselves to make sense of it all. And when you stop clinging to those stories, even just for a breath, life starts to feel lighter. Maybe you felt that lightness before, like when you're sitting outside at sunset and, for a few seconds, the world feels so vast and peaceful that your worries just fade. In that moment, you're not thinking about your past or your future. You're just there, aware, breathing, alive. That's what it feels like when the self softens. It's not mystical or complicated. It's simple, ordinary, and profoundly peaceful. The funny thing is, this peace was never gone. It's always been here, underneath the noise of your thoughts, beneath the chase to become something more. Every time you say, I'm not good enough, or I need to be better, you move away from it. But the moment you stop trying to be more and just allow yourself to be, peace gently returns, like a friend who's been waiting patiently at your doorstep. I used to think that understanding myself meant finding all the right answers. But now, I think it's about learning how to sit with the questions, to allow uncertainty without panic, to trust that even when you don't see the whole path, you're still walking in the right direction. Maybe that's what it means to live without a fixed self, to stop trying to be permanent in a world that's always changing. You see, everything around us is teaching this lesson quietly. The moon changes shape every night, but never stops shining. The seasons come and go, yet the earth keeps turning. Even your breath, it rises and falls, never the same, yet always life-giving. If nature doesn't cling, why should we? Maybe peace begins the moment we start to trust life's rhythm instead of resisting it. And I know it's not easy. We've been told our whole lives to hold on tight, to stand firm, to be somebody. But maybe life was never about becoming somebody. Maybe it's about remembering that we're already part of something vast and beautiful. The sky, the wind, the quiet beating of the heart. So tonight, if your mind feels heavy or your heart feels tired, just pause. Breathe in softly. Feel that air. It doesn't belong to you, yet it sustains you. It moves through you freely. That's how life is meant to be. Moving, flowing, never owned, never held. You are not separate from that flow. You are it. And if hearing this brings even a small sigh of relief, stay with me. Let's keep walking this path together. Gently, slowly, without trying to arrive anywhere too fast. You can subscribe if you like, not out of obligation, but because this space, this quiet space, is here for you. A space where we keep remembering that peace isn't something to find. It's what's left when we finally stop searching. There's a tenderness that comes with slowing down, a kind of quiet honesty that we don't often allow ourselves to feel. When you stop running from one thing to the next, when you stop trying to fill every silence, something beautiful starts to appear. You begin to see that underneath all the noise and all the labels, parent, worker, friend, failure, success, there's just you. Not the version the world sees, not the one you perform, but the raw, breathing presence that's always been here. The one who's felt every heartbreak, every joy, every quiet moment no one else saw. That's the real you, not a self made of stories, but awareness itself, soft, open, unafraid. Sometimes, I think life keeps giving us little chances to see this. When a storm comes and everything we planned falls apart. When someone we love walks away. When we face the truth that we can't control everything. Those are the cracks where light slips in. It's in those moments of loss and uncertainty that we glimpse what's real. Not the version of life we built in our minds, but life itself, raw, unpredictable, beautifully alive. You see, the idea of no self isn't about disappearing. It's about awakening. It's about realizing that you are more than the story you tell yourself. You're not just your name, your memories, or your mistakes. You're not even your thoughts. They come and go like passing clouds. What you truly are is the sky itself, vast enough to hold it all. The pain, the laughter, the silence. It all moves through you, but none of it defines you. And when you start living from that space, that open, sky-like awareness, something magical happens. You stop taking everything so personally. Someone criticizes you, and instead of crumbling, you breathe. You see it for what it is, just another passing wave. You lose something, and though it hurts, a deeper part of you knows nothing real can ever be lost. Because what's real isn't the thing. It's the awareness that experiences it. That awareness doesn't break, doesn't age, doesn't die. It just is. Maybe that's what freedom feels like. Not running away from pain, but resting in something deeper than it. Not escaping life, but finally saying yes to all of it. The joy, the mess, the change, the uncertainty. You start to see beauty in places you've never noticed before, in the wrinkles on your hands, in the sound of rain on the window, in the quiet ache of missing someone. Everything starts to feel connected, because it always was. And maybe that's what awakening really means. Not floating away from life, but sinking fully into it, feeling everything without being crushed by it, loving without needing to possess, living without needing to define, just being simple, kind, and awake. If this touches something in you, if it makes you breathe a little slower or feel a little softer, stay with me. You can subscribe if you want to keep walking this path together. Not because we're trying to reach some final truth, but because sometimes it's nice to have someone to walk with as we keep remembering what we already are, not a separate self trying to survive, but life itself, breathing, changing, endlessly flowing. You know, as we keep going deeper into this, something starts to shift, not in a dramatic lightning strike kind of way, but quietly, like dawn breaking after a long night. You begin to notice small things. How your chest tightens when you try to control something. How it softens when you simply allow things to be as they are. You start catching yourself in those little moments of tension, realizing how often you're trying to hold life still. But the truth is, life was never meant to be held. It was meant to be lived, with open hands, open eyes, and an open heart. Sometimes I think we forget that peace isn't something we achieve. It's something we remember. It's been there all along, hidden beneath layers of fear, pride, and the endless need to be someone. But when those layers start to fall away, even for a moment, what's left is something so simple, so quiet, that it almost feels unfamiliar. That stillness inside you isn't emptiness. It's fullness. It's presence. It's life, experience without the constant filter of me and mine. I remember once meeting a woman who had been through a lot: loss, illness, heartbreak. When I asked her how she managed to stay so peaceful, she smiled and said, "Because I stopped asking life to make sense." She didn't mean she gave up. She meant she stopped needing everything to fit into her idea of how it should be. She said, when you stop arguing with what is, you find a kind of quiet joy you didn't know was possible. Her words stayed with me. Maybe peace begins the moment we stop demanding that life always makes sense. You see, when we believe in a solid self, we're constantly measuring, am I good enough, strong enough, wise enough? But when you let that go, when you stop comparing and simply show up as you are, the pressure dissolves. You don't have to win at life. You just have to live it. You don't have to be extraordinary. You just have to be real. Maybe that's why children seem so full of life. They're not worried about who they're supposed to be. They're just being, laughing, crying, playing, falling, getting up again, fully present in every moment. Somewhere along the way, we forgot how to do that. We got so busy trying to become someone that we forgot how to simply be. But it's never too late to return. You can always begin again. With each breath, with each sunrise, with each quiet realization that you don't have to carry the world on your shoulders. You can let it rest. You can let yourself rest. And maybe, as you keep loosening your grip on who you think you are, you'll start to see something beautiful, that there's a softness waiting underneath all the striving, a peace that doesn't depend on anything, a quiet, steady light that's always been there, gently guiding you home. If this speaks to something inside you, I hope you'll stay a while. Subscribe if you like, not for the sake of growing a channel, but to keep sharing this space together, this gentle reminder that we don't need to chase peace. We only need to stop running from it. Because maybe, just maybe, peace has been here all along, waiting for us to finally be still enough to notice. Sometimes the hardest part of all this isn't understanding the teaching. It's living it when life gets messy, when someone hurts us, when plans fall apart, or when loneliness creeps in at night. The idea of letting go suddenly feels impossible. We want to hold on to something. Anger, pride, memories, anything that gives us a sense of control. But the truth is, the more we cling, the heavier it all becomes. Peace doesn't come from fixing everything. It comes from loosening our grip. There's a story I once heard about a man who carried a large rock everywhere he went. At first, people laughed, thinking it was a joke. But after a while, it became clear he couldn't put it down. When asked why, he said, "It's mine. I've carried it so long. I wouldn't know who I am without it." And isn't that what we do, too? We carry our stories, our pain, our identities, believing they define us. We forget that we can put the rock down at any time. We just need to remember we have that choice. Maybe that's what the Buddha meant when he spoke about freedom. Not some mystical escape from life, but the quiet realization that we can stop carrying what no longer serves us. The fear, the resentment, the endless what-ifs, they don't belong to us. They were just passing clouds, and we mistook them for the sky. You see, life will keep changing no matter how tightly we hold on. People will come and go. Success will rise and fall. Even our bodies, our thoughts, our emotions, they shift like waves on the sea. So instead of fighting the tide, what if we learned to float? What if we allowed ourselves to trust the current, to let it take us where we need to go? There's a gentle strength that comes with surrender. It's not weakness. It's wisdom. It's knowing that we don't have to control the wind to enjoy the breeze. We don't have to understand every storm to trust that it will pass. Letting go isn't giving up. It's giving space for something new to grow. Maybe you felt it before, that deep exhale after a long cry, that soft calm that comes when you finally say, "It's okay. I can't change this, but I can choose peace." That's what freedom feels like. Not fireworks or grand revelations, but a quiet, steady breath that whispers, "I'm okay right here." So if you're watching this and feeling like you've been carrying too much, please take a breath. Set something down. You don't have to drop everything at once. Just one small thing today. Maybe it's a grudge. Maybe it's guilt. Maybe it's the thought that you should already have it all figured out. And if this moment feels like a tiny spark of relief, hold on to that. Not tightly, but gently, like holding a feather in your palm. Because this is the star of freedom. This is where peace begins. Not out there, not someday, but right here in this breath, in this quiet, where you finally remember that you are enough, even without the weight. If these words touch something inside you, I'd love for you to stay a little longer. Subscribe if you'd like, and let's keep walking this path together. One breath, one gentle letting go at a time. There's a quiet moment that comes after we've let go, a moment when everything feels strangely still. At first, it can be unsettling, almost empty, as if we've lost something that used to define us. But if you sit with that stillness long enough, something begins to change. You start to feel lighter, softer, more open. It's like walking out of a crowded room into the cool night air. You didn't realize how heavy the noise had been until it finally stopped. In that silence, you begin to see life differently. You stop needing everything to revolve around you. The little irritations, the need to be right, the fear of being misunderstood, they all start to fade. Because now, you understand that the world was never really about you or me. It's been about connection all along. The river doesn't flow for itself. The sun doesn't shine to prove its worth. Everything simply gives what it has, and that giving, that flow, is what makes life beautiful. When we live without clinging to a fixed idea of who we are, love starts to feel different, too. It's no longer about possession or expectation. It becomes spacious, gentle, unconditional. You begin to love people not because of what they bring to your life, but simply because they are. You see their struggles, their fears, their hopes, and you understand that beneath all the stories, we're all made of the same fragile, tender stuff. I remember an older man once told me, "When I was young, I wanted to change the world. When I got older, I just wanted to understand it. But now I just want to love it." Maybe that's what awakening really looks like. Not a grand revelation, but a slow, quiet opening of the heart. When the walls of me start to crumble, compassion naturally flows in. It's not something we force. It's what's left when fear leaves the room. And maybe that's the kind of peace the Buddha talked about. Not the kind you chase, but the kind you uncover when you stop running. You see, suffering doesn't always vanish overnight. Life still happens. People still hurt. The world still turns. But you stop fighting the current. You learn to move with it, to dance with it. Think about it. When a storm comes, trees that stand rigid are the first to break. But those that bend survive. Life asks us to bend, not because we're weak, but because flexibility is the truest form of strength. To live with an open heart, even when it hurts, that's real courage. So, if you're listening right now, maybe you're going through something that feels too heavy to carry. Maybe you're trying to find meaning in a season that doesn't make sense yet. I just want to say, it's okay. You don't have to have the answers. You don't even have to feel peaceful all the time. Just breathe. Be kind to yourself. Let the moment be enough. Because every time you choose to soften instead of harden, every time you choose love over fear, you're awakening. Slowly, quietly, beautifully. You're learning what it means to live without the armor of I and mine. And that's when you finally start to see the world as it really is, wide, alive, and full of light. If these words bring a little calm to your heart, I'd love for you to stay connected. Subscribe if you feel called to, so we can keep exploring these quiet truths together, not as teacher and student, but as travelers, just two souls learning to walk gently through this mysterious, beautiful life. Sometimes when the night grows quiet and the world slows down, you can almost feel it, that deep, unspoken truth the Buddha tried to point us toward. It isn't hidden in temples or buried in ancient books. It's right here, breathing through this very moment. When you stop chasing what's next and allow yourself to just be, life begins to whisper back. You realize that all along, it wasn't about becoming someone better or wiser. It was about remembering who you've always been underneath the noise, open, tender, and deeply alive. Maybe the idea of no self sounds confusing at first, but it's not about erasing who you are. It's about seeing that you're not trapped inside one fixed version of yourself. You're not your mistakes, not your past, not even the roles the world gives you. You're the space where all those things rise and fall, the awareness behind the story. When you touch that space, fear loses its grip. You begin to understand that life doesn't belong to you. You belong to life. And from that realization comes a gentle freedom. You stop needing to prove anything. You stop fighting what is. You laugh a little more easily, forgive a little faster. Even pain feels different. It softens because you no longer see it as something happening to you, but as something simply moving through you. You start to trust that everything, even the hard parts, is guiding you somewhere meaningful. You might find yourself standing by a window one morning, watching sunlight spill across the floor, and suddenly you feel it. Peace Not loud or dramatic, but quiet and steady, like a deep breath you didn't know you were holding. That's when you know you're home, not in a place, but in your own heart. You've come back to yourself, the part that never needed to be anything more than what it already is. So if you've been listening all the way through, maybe something inside you has softened too. Maybe you feel a little lighter, a little more at ease. If so, stay with that feeling. Let it grow roots. Let it guide how you move through tomorrow. You don't need to rush to understand it. Just live it. Live kindly. Live gently. Live awake. And if these reflections bring you even a small moment of calm in the middle of your day, I'd love for you to stay close. Subscribe to the channel. Not out of habit, but as a way of saying, yes, I want to walk this path a little further. Together, we'll keep exploring what it means to live with open eyes and an open heart, one quiet breath at a time.